Hello everyone, my name is Brian. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a simple 4-hole ocarina. So what I do is I start off with a ball of clay, and then I cut it in half, and we're going to make 2 pinch pots. So the next thing you want to do after you got your 2 pinch pots is you want to make sure that they're about the same size. So let's see here, one of mine is a little bit bigger than the other, so I'll make some adjustments here. All right, so once you've got your 2 pots that are the same size, you want to, what I do is I score the edges with a pin tool, and then I get them wet and I put them together. All right, now my 2 halves have been scored and they're wet. I'm going to put them together and then smooth out the seam. All right, so at this point, you should have a somewhat flattened orb, and now you got to pick to where the mouthpiece is going to be. So what I do is I usually like the side that's a little flatter to be the bottom. And I'll hold up my hand here, and then I'll use my thumb to just do an indentation on the top. So as you can see, I've pinched this down, but I've only really pinched it on the top, and the bottom has stayed the same. So at this point, the clay is still pretty wet, and so to continue on with the next steps, we're going to wait until the clay is, I would say, leather hard. So you can put it outside. If it's a hot day, I would put it in the shade. If you put it in the sun, it'll probably crack. Or you can just leave it inside and wait a couple hours. Okay, I'll come back once this is leather hard, and we'll keep going. All right, the ocarina is dried out enough. The next step here is to make the square hole on the bottom side to make the tone. So what I use this is just an ordinary coffee stirrer that I've cut in half and kind of sanded down. And so what I'll do is make the square hole, and what I do is I make the hole kind of right about where the end of this pinch ends. I'll just put it in there and I'll pull it back. It's slightly larger. I would say it's a square hole, with each side being slightly bigger than the coffee stirrer. I'll kind of clean that up, make sure the square hole is nice clean edges, and then I'll make a nice little ramp for it. Ultimately, we're going to be blowing through here, so I'll make a little ramp on the back side. Just take a little piece of clay out like that, and I'll use the edge of the tool to smooth that ramp out. Alright, so as you can see here, we're left with a nice little ramp. And then I'll also kind of push down here so that we get a nice little edge, I'll call it. Because ultimately we're going to be making a hole through here to blow into, and the air is going to want to hit that edge to create the tone. All right, so now this is the trickiest part. So what I do when I create the mouthpiece hole is I push in through this side, and what the goal here is to get this hole. So if you imagine you're peering down the mouthpiece, you see through that hole you see um, half of the edge, and then you kind of um, see air on the top of that. So if you imagine the blowhole going in, half the air goes out up the ramp, and half the air goes in the ocarina. And so if you do that, then chances are it's going to make a good sound. And then it is important that the edges of the holes are all nice and clean. So I'll kind of smooth it out a little bit, poke it through a few times, and clean it up if there's any little clay pieces hanging out. And then move it side to side, and get a nice good air channel going in there. And a lot of times, like when I made this hole, it's kind of all going into the ocarina. So it helps at this point if the clay is still a little soft, because here I'll just kind of push down on the ocarina to make it so the air is coming in the right direction. All right, let's see how it sounds. Yeah. All right, so that's one thing with these is they can be a little finicky. So once you get it to make a good tone, you don't really want to mess with the mouthpiece that much. All right, so there we go. We got that first note. Now for making the holes. So on the right side as you're facing it, in the rear there's going to be a small hole, and then in the front there's going to be a medium hole, and then on your left side there's going to be two large holes. So you can see here on one that's already made. Here's your small hole, medium hole, and your two large holes. And when you make these holes, I just kind of make the holes and tune it by ear. And so what I'll do is I'll start with the small hole and the medium hole. I'll do those at the same time. I'll do those with a pin tool. So I'll just kind of poke that in and make the hole. And after you made enough of these, you kind of know about what size you need. But when you do this, when they're kind of leather hard, you're still able to change the holes a little bit if you make them the wrong size. So, and I kind of tune these to ear, so with a major scale. So these two notes, or these two holes, will make the first three notes of the major scale. Or I'm sorry, the first four notes: do, re, mi, fa. So let's see how it sounds. Sounds pretty close. Make that smaller hole a little bit bigger. All right, so that's our first four notes of the major scale. And then just kind of the quick and dirty way to make this is if you make your two large holes, and if one large hole sounds about the same as just the small and the medium, if you do that for your two large holes, you'll get pretty close to a major scale. So I'll show you what I mean. See how close we are here. See that? So the pitch with the one large hole is about the same as the pitch with both the small and the medium hole uncovered. So here's the next part of the scale. Sounds pretty close. All right, so now we'll do the next large hole. And the two large holes should be about the same size. Let's try it out. Okay, that new hole I made is a little bit slightly higher pitch, but that's okay. We'll see how the scale sounds. So this is a common troubleshooting here. You notice as more holes got uncovered, the ocarina kind of lost its sound. So part of that is because as I'm blowing, the clay is getting wet here, it's getting soft, but we'll just kind of have to mess with this edge a little bit and see if we can get it to start making noise again with all the holes uncovered. There we go. All right, so that sounds pretty close. So that's how you make an ocarina and tune it to a major scale. At this point, once it makes noise and it's not totally dry, I would not play it until it does dry. It will change a little bit as it dries, as it shrinks the pitch, but not too much. Yeah, so just let it dry out, and then you can fire it in a kiln or fire it in a campfire. And thanks for joining us. Bye bye.